Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 3 of Anime Crossing. My name is Ishan, and as always, I'm here with some beautiful people who will now proceed to properly introduce themselves.
Hey everybody, I'm the Bane's Hero. I am coming from my home, but we are ready to record and I warmed up my voice. Hope you guys are doing well.
Hey, it's Baja Irish Rico.
Hey, it's Ryan. I don't know why everyone's got to be extra, but all right.
What's up, everyone? It's Nate back again.
Hey, it's McNash. Hope you're all doing well.
Thanks, guys. So, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about A Place Further Than the Universe. This was voted on by everybody last week and was suggested by Nate. So, without further ado, as always, let's go through everybody one at a time. Just give us your summary on this. Feel free to go a little bit more in depth with these than we normally do. And then we can kind of transition into deeper questions that I think David has for us today. So, Josh, let's go with you.
Hi guys. My impressions of The Place Further Than the Universe. One thing I wanted to hold it in comparison to just impressions based on the name is it was a kind of a reminder of A Place Beyond the Pines, and I'm like, is this going to be anywhere near it? And thankfully, I was wrong. I love the movie with Ryan Gosling, and but it was completely different. So if anyone has, if anyone had that impression, just just know that it's very different. But they're both very good, and they have very good points that I feel are kind of inspirational and good reminders of where your life is at, and be a little bit more thankful in certain aspects. But yeah, all in all, my first impressions of the show is I like the journey, the sense of adventure, being realistic. I had done a few book reports on planning trips. This one covers a group of, is it 4 girls or so, that 4 or 5 girls. They become friends through a series of interactions, and they make their way to planning a trip to Antarctica. One of the characters has their mom that they want to reunite with, and I felt that was kind of reminiscent of a little bit of Hunter x Hunter or Hunter x Hunter, however which way you guys kind of prefer with that. Because the protagonist is seeking their parental figure, and for myself, I never really had a sense of identification with that particular character, but little bits and pieces I found I identified with characters throughout. So overall, it was very enjoyable, and I wanted to recommend it to a lot of people because, well, before the pandemic and everything, it was definitely inspirational for people to just seize the day, carpe diem, and go and explore what the world has to offer.
So, for me, just from the beginnings of just looking at kind of like the artwork and the genre of the show, slice of life comedy, it's not really my kind of genre that I would usually go into, which is why I was surprised by how much I really, really enjoyed this show personally. To me, it immediately had so much heart and likable characters from the get go. It had beautiful art, music, good humor, and the overall messages that it tried to portray, I thought were really impactful. I saw one quote from Crunchyroll when they put it up for award that I think really reflected what I felt. They said it was a heartfelt series about chasing dreams, learning to break out of self-imposed boundaries, and living a life full of adventure. And I think that really summarized kind of how I felt with the show personally.
So, my opinion based off the show, is kind of starting off with, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was very nice. The artwork was, again, beautiful. The journey was nice and all, but in my personal opinion, I just kind of like watched it and that was it. Like, I really didn't feel much except for like 1 or 2 parts. I mean, the humor was very nice, but then other parts, I'm just kind of like, I'm just watching it to watch it. I really didn't think much about it. It didn't really provoke a lot of thought into anything, so couldn't really tear it down or bring it up. I mean, all in all, would I watch it again? Maybe after this conversation to see if I can find some new things. Maybe. Would I recommend it? Maybe. But I mean, it's usually not my cup of tea. But I wanted to give it a fair shot.
Yeah. For me, oh man, this show, this show was fantastic. I'm gonna be honest. From the music, how it perfectly synced with each emotional note, and the beautiful animation that just blended so seamlessly. It brought a beautiful touch of realism and a beautiful touch of comedy to it. That it was very, as a hero said earlier, very inspirational. And I hadn't seen a slice of life that would make me like laugh like this since Kobayashi, and I hadn't cried into an anime like this since freaking Boku no Hero. So this show to me was fantastic, and honestly, I would recommend it 110% to anybody who's trying to find that piece of meaning in life or is in that search, because very much this show kind of reflected what it feels like to be in that search, and I enjoyed it very much a lot.
So, let's see here. In the long-running tradition of animes about cute girls doing cute things and being cute, which I generally is not my cup of tea at all. Kind of like David in that regard. I found it enjoyable and pleasant. It was definitely an enjoyable experience to watch the show. Something I think we'll get into later, though, is unfortunately for me at least, I like it. It made me feel emotions. It definitely was a beautiful show, and it was a good, fun experience. But I'm used to more cerebral fare, and this definitely isn't that. So in a lot of ways, it felt kind of like junk food in that it made me feel good, and it helped me unwind after like a long, stressful day. But that's pretty much all I could say about it on first impressions. That was my experience.
Yeah. So for me, there's a lot of what you guys are saying that I completely agree with. Saying that the music is great, animation's great, it gives you warm fuzzies, the themes that it tackles are very valuable, and the lessons the characters learned are great. Much like what David and Viggy said, slice of life normally really isn't my thing. And especially the cute girls doing cute things subgenre of that is 100% not my thing. And quite frankly, this show kind of reminded me why that is. Shows like K-On!, for example, I really don't like K-On! At all. So this show, I wouldn't say I hated it. And I can 100% see why people like it. And objectively speaking, I cannot argue really that the show is bad, because it's well made for damn sure, right? It's really funny. It sets out what it wants to do and does that task very well, and then it's over and it makes you feel good. Objectively, perfectly fine. Cannot even disagree with any of that. But for me personally, I did not feel compelled by the show at all. It got to the point where I was kind of forcing myself to watch it just because we have to do a podcast on it. I never felt the need to go to the next episode. I felt like it took them way too long to get to Antarctica. It took them, I think, until the end of episode 8, I think, is when they got there. And the thing about Slice of Life that I don't like personally, again, I completely respect why people do like Slice of Life, but the reason I watch anime is to like escape from my real world and go into something that I can't experience, right? And for me, a high school setting for a Slice of Life is the most boring thing on the planet. And I hated the fact that they stayed in the small town in the high school setting for like 8 episodes, or I guess they technically left by episode 6 or something like that and went to like Singapore and places. But I was hoping the show would focus more on Antarctica, because I'm like, dude, I'm probably never going to go there. I'm fascinated by Antarctica. I want to know more about it. I want to see how these girls interact there and, encounter struggles and challenges and overcome those together, even if maybe there's some physical peril they'll go through, right? Maybe somebody gets trapped in a blizzard like her mom does. Who knows? Maybe they'll face some peril and, overcome a lot of challenges. And there were challenges when they got there. A lot of nice emotional challenges, from people like Hinata's backstory about her track team and Yuzu's backstory about, not knowing what it means to have a friend. And all of that is nice. It really is. And I can't say it's not nice. That would be doing a disservice to the show. But I feel like it's just been done better by other shows for me personally. And I just wish they focused more on the adults. I was more interested in the adult characters than I was for the 4 high schoolers. I thought they were more complex and more interesting. Whereas the 4 girls, especially Tamaki, I didn't find her very interesting at all. I felt like she was just kind of a filter that we see the show through. The other 3 characters were much more interesting, but even them, like, besides Shirase, who has the main reason for being in Antarctica, I couldn't really feel for the other 2 too much, because for me, like, once they got through, because they both had like an episode each where they had some kind of emotional struggle, and like they all worked and overcame it, but then I felt like they just went back to being the same way as they were before. So I didn't really feel the impact of that, even though it was well done. So for me, all of those things kind of came together, and I thought the show was just very middling. It's not terrible. I can't say it's terrible, but I can't say it's great either. So that's kind of where I landed on it.
Understandable. I know there's some questions that David wants to get to, so I'll speak later. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. Ish. Oh, sorry, Ish. Gosh, my accent.
You're fine. I appreciate it.
No, I think everyone. I think this is a good mix of ranges. It sounds like a few of us are really enjoying it. Some of us. It sounds like for the most part we all at least appreciate it, but maybe it's not our cup of tea, or it didn't really do it for us.
Yep.
I kind of want to start off with more of like a general question of just kind of going around, and I know Ishi just kind of touched this already, but if everyone could kind of say, who was their favorite character, and some of the major themes, or what do you think that character brought to the show? So we can start at the top again, if you're ready to say something, Josh. If not, we can skip.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't 100% remember each character by name, but I had kind of a toss up between just based on description of them. There was the little bit more standoffish girl with the long dark hair. I felt like she had the most. I felt like she had the most reason, most range of growth in order to mingle with the other girls. But I don't know. I kind of gravitate towards the one character with, I think she had brown hair, and she was kind of like the glue with a lot of everyone. And whenever there were things that would take them outside of the whole group setting, she would. What I recall is her kind of addressing it, and I don't know. I really appreciate people like that. That pay attention to little mannerisms and do little pop-ins and just I don't know. It's really a feel-good type of character that that I liked about it them. But I also understand and kind of empathize with the types of characters that are a little bit more. They have a little bit more emotional baggage, and those are the ones that I kind of gravitate towards because I feel like I want to know what got them there, and I kind of go through a little bit of personal healing through seeing them kind of process through the whole thing, and that's kind of my reason why I like those particular characters. But yeah, all in all, I don't fully felt like I had an attachment or a good enough reason for them to make the huge journey, going from Japan to eventually Australia and then going down to Antarctica. I mean, that's it's a big undertaking to go through that, and I don't know. I guess you just got to do it, and that's the message that I got. That was a takeaway that I had from seeing the show, and I don't know. It's not bad. It's not bad. Like I would rate it. maybe around a low 80%, if on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 being good. So yeah.
So
With all that being said, who was your favorite character?
yeah, I was gonna say.
Josh?
So
I
going into
still
your
don't
favorite character,
know.
you reassessed it. You're like, you know what? It's okay, but it's still an 8.
Yeah.
No, I think
So
you said your favorite character in the beginning was Shirase, the long black-haired one, the mother who was the
yes.
scientist.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
the daughter of the mother who was the scientist.
You know.
Okay. So for clarification here, because I'm going very confused, and I feel
Oh,
like
did I
anyone else
mix
watching
it
this is going to be
up?
very confused.
I think I mixed it up.
Yeah, okay,
My bad.
so you have quiet actor girl Yuzu. You have my mom is in Antarctica. I'm gonna go get her Shirase. You have main character girl who were introduced in the beginning, who's Kimari, and then you have the girl that quit school but is gonna go straight to college, named Hinata. So,
Ooh.
so of these four, which one were you referring to? Because I'm super lost.
Yeah, because like I'm pretty sure 2 of them have brown hair. So I was like, are you talking about Hinata or are you talking about Tamaki? I was like super confused. But I think I get what you mean though. So
See, this is why I don't try and date 2 girls at the same time.
I don't
good,
think
good,
most
good lesson.
people try to do that.
you know, you know that's the real lesson from the show. You know, don't date 4 girls at the same time.
Oh my god.
So,
Good message.
yeah. All right, David, you want to say your favorite characters?
Yeah. So without trying to be my usual self, where I'll just like sound out and pretend like, actually, no, I'm just gonna do that. All right. So the short chick was the character I felt like was me the most because
Hinata.
yeah. So like short stuff was like really like her personality and her humor and her like derpiness and everything was very like reminiscent of like how I feel I am or how I feel I fit into a friend group. And I did really like her kind of character arc where hers was more of like she was more of like the journey than the destination person, like really wanted to experience something, but also like the whole kind of like fake friends vibe kind of thing and her discovering obviously like to a big theme of the whole show was discovering what real friends are and making real bonds and relationships through experiences together.
Bless.
And I liked like where she was coming from for the reasoning of why she kind of seeked that coming from fake friends. And then, you know, learning to forgive them, but also like realize that like, you know, she's still worth something, she's still valued and everything. With that being said though, I still think you know, daughter of the mother of the penguin chick was the most interesting character because of course she had the most interesting arc in my opinion. Just as Josh said, because a lot revolved around her. And part of my follow-up question to everyone after you answer who's your favorite character is, I want to hear what everyone thinks. Who does everyone see as the main character of the show? Because to me, we were kind of introduced to a main character who has an interesting arc in the beginning, and then it kind of fizzles out. And like you guys said, we kind of see the show through her eyes. But I really think Shirase was actually like the main character come to the end of the show and what the main like who's the main funnel and catalyst of the show.
Yeah, I have to agree with that actually. I feel like the Tamaki, who was the one that introduced us to everything that was happening as a character, I think she was meant to be just the audience. Like like how you said at the beginning, she had an arc, and very much so. It was the spark, so to speak, that ignited everything, and then we shifted to everybody else. And I feel like that was the main that was the goal for her. I'm not necessarily saying it was a great goal for a character because you know her arc sort of did fizzle out a little bit, but I do think that was her function within the show. Now, granted, I do. I'm gonna be the one that says I like them. Honestly, to me, they were fantastic characters because each of them had a specific key thing that occurred to them that reminded me a lot of me and the journey that I've been through myself. And you know, I want to say probably trigger warning to anybody who's listening. I will relate to current living situations. You know, we are under quarantine, COVID-19, and this show hit me like a fucking brick. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks. Simply because it, especially beginning with Tamaki, the call to action, the call to doing something that you either promised yourself or told yourself that you were gonna do, and then you realize that your youth is passing by and you're not gonna get to do it, or feeling that you might not get to do it because life is taking you away. You know, whether that's high school, entrance exams for college, or just life in general. I felt that pressure immensely as of lately, and you guys know because you know you're my friend. And but I've felt that, you know, immensely, and then slowly shifting to, you know, Shigase, who wanted to find a reconnection, knowing that her mother was lost and dead, you know, gone, but still wanted to find that connection. That to me, oh my god, that spoke to me so much because, you know, I want to get a little personal here, but you know, in the past, my grandpa passed away, and the first thing that came to me was that I need to go to the Grand Canyon. I need to witness something beautiful. And to me, that was the biggest like connection that I've ever had to a character, saying, hey, I need to do this for me, but also because I want to connect with this person that I've lost, because I didn't get to say my goodbye. You know, I never got that moment. And that was such a strong thing. Like I yeah. I'm trying to keep myself together here, but to me, that connected with that character, and that was the reason why I also loved her. I loved Hinata because personally, similar to David, I that her energy, I was like, oh, that's so me. I would totally be joking around and dropping dumbass random quotes at you know, at random situations. And I really loved her energy as a character, and then seeing her struggle with having, you know, those fake friends, and all of a sudden showing up when something good is happening. I've experienced that, and I've seen that in more than one person, and that to me, that was another thing that I connected with deeply. And then the one that I connected with most, just Yuzu, the star, so to speak, that got them to that point of getting to Antarctica. Man, on episode 3, when she had that dream of the girls climbing the stairs and basically going after her, not because of personal game, but because they were just saying, hey, please do it. Like, come with us. This is an experience. It's the is the chance of a lifetime, and you should just do it. Oh man, it reminded me of like shit. It actually reminded me of meeting you guys, because I didn't know what it was like to have a real friend for a very long time, and it just made me it made me reminisce of each time I met, like when I met all of you individually, and it made me think of all the people that have made such a huge change in my life, and what it truly means to be, or to be a friend and to have a friend. And that, oh man, that broke me. Like I cried very deeply when episode 3 came around. And a lot of this show was that, you know, learning the the meaning of true friendship, the meaning of standing up for a friend, even when others come around saying, hey, you know, I'm your friend now because you're doing something fantastic. No, it was truly it was very personal to me. So like I with each one, I honestly, they were all 4 of them I found as my favorite, I would say, but Yuzu specifically was the biggest one, because it brought, well, Yuzu and Shirase, I would say, just because they brought the biggest connections to me. So I really love them and their arcs as characters. But yeah, that, at least characters wise, those 2 were like my big ones.
Okay, so mine was Hinata then.
Yeah. Ziggy, what about you?
Are we
Ziggy, you
as
there?
tight as the 4 girls were? Is our friendship bond that's powerful?
Nah, dude, we tighter.
I
Are we better?
I think
Yeah,
their
man.
friendship is
tighter.
still. I feel like their friendship is still kind of teetering on like depending on where their life paths may go, they might just
Correct.
fall out.
They're still in high school.
Our friendship
that's how I feel.
These are 16-year-olds.
They're in
The
high school,
nature
dude.
of teenage friendships is inherently qualitatively different than adult ones.
We're not really adults though.
Speak for yourself, bro.
David, let me give you a biology lesson real quick.
This is not what people are watching for.
So before we get too off track, Viggy, what about you for the question?
Favorite character? Jeez Louise. I mean,
You don't have to have one.
It's Louise.
Yes.
wow. Yes, my favorite characters were Jeez and Luis. In all seriousness, I don't think I have like. I mean, if I'm forced to pick, I guess it would be like if like a gun to my head, forced to pick situation for whatever extraneous circumstance that would. Good lord. I guess maybe like be between like Hinata and Kimari, but even that's like tenuous because for me it's like there are elements of each character I like a lot, and there are other elements of each character where I'm like, this feels like pandering. I'm okay,
Well,
cool.
Could you elaborate on that then? Like,
Yeah, so elements I like about each character, they're all very unique. Various quirks. Yeah, Shirase has an unhealthy obsession with penguins.
God.
Look, so do I. All right, what you trying to say, dude? Her reaction to penguins, I'm like, that would literally be me in Antarctica. Like, I'm telling you.
did y'all know you
I
could
mean-
go to Antarctica for
Gotta
15K?
go find out.
No,
Yeah.
well, the thing is, Ishan, you're not usually a stoic, calm, collected person
no, you're
who
right.
has difficulty opening up to other people. You're a pretty jovial, like, easy to talk to kind of guy, right?
Right.
So you doing that reaction is a little less contrasting.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's like if you were to do that, I'd be like, "Yup, that makes sense." But this is like, I don't know.
So you felt that
no one
doesn't
here
track
really
for her
considers-
character.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like, so like that little quirk was kind of cute and made her character a little more interesting. Kimari's earnest to the point of absurdity and doesn't think things through at all, which is like, lol, okay, this is believable. And so like little things like that between all the characters made them interesting, but at the same time, like there were scenes that would happen and I'm like, okay, I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to get out of this. Like the one where they come out of the room to see the ocean during the storm. I'm like, okay, I can see. I mean, I wouldn't do that because I'm not that brave. But yeah,
Dude,
y'all, I can
one of them
see
was
why
gonna fall
you.
over. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like IRL me would be like, I kind of want to do this, but I also know I might actually die with a capital D, so I'm not going to.
Ish, I think
But-
you think of the show a little Made in Abyss-esque, where you think someone something like horrifies, because like they had,
I mean, that was really dangerous, though. That was
Oh, yeah.
high key dangerous.
the whole show is suspended disbelief in terms of like it's
Yeah.
just like you have to get on track that like
Right.
they're not gonna struggle anything physical. It's all just like emotional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I realized that after
Exactly.
that episode, pretty much.
I gave them a pass on that. The thing that bothered me wasn't them going outside, but the moment they go outside and then they literally the camera like okay, so the sequence where they're all like, is this water from the ocean or is it rain, right? And then the camera goes super close up on each of their faces, and they're like, "Shoppai, shoppai da, shoppai," and yes, it is. They're all saying it's salty, and I'm like, okay, did we have to go through literally the same shot, very similar delivery, 4 times? I get it. They're hyped that the seawater's hitting their faces. I don't need it done to me 4 times. Like little things like that kept like bothering me a little bit across all the characters and made them seem a little like I don't know. It's weird. Like I couldn't tell if the show was trying to like sell their cuteness or thought I wasn't paying attention or something, which by extension like kind of made me conflate their characters with that stance the show tended to have, which I don't know if that's fair or not. It's just kind of what happened. So things like that kept me from loving any individual character a lot. So
Right.
I guess the short answer to the who's your favorite character is I like little things here and there about all of them, but I don't love any of them. So I'm very hard pressed to pick one girl that stood out. So
That's fair. That's an interesting response too. Definitely get where you're coming from. Yeah, I guess for me, it's interesting because you guys are only talking about the four girls.
I was gonna say that too.
But I really like Gin a lot. And
Yeah,
I
boy.
I think her character alongside Shirase together is my favorite part of the whole show. Because like you said, David, and I agree, I think Shirase is kind of the main character more so than Kimari.
Mhm.
And I think it's both Gin and Shirase moving on together that hit me the hardest out of anything in the whole show. I mean, I never cried like Nate. I love that it's like so personal for you and everything like that. And when you said at the beginning that you cry a lot for My Hero Academia, like I do too. Like I cry in My Hero Academia like every other fucking episode. But this
Yep.
this show didn't write any of that for me, to be quite frank. But these two characters together, I loved. I loved Gin also like Haiki has not moved on and sees the mom in Shirase so much. You know, whenever they do anything and have those heart to hearts, and after she cuts her hair, and you know, the scene with the emails like was my favorite scene. You know, like those two interacting. She gives her the laptop at the end. I think those two together was my favorite part, and really was the main thing that I felt compelled by. And you know, learning that you know they both shared a love for this person who is no longer here, and you know there was some kind of resentment there from her because you know she's the captain of the expedition. You know she should have protected everybody, and she feels guilty for not having done that. And then as a daughter of somebody who went and died, and suddenly this person who's kind of like your aunt is telling you, you know, she's no longer with you. It's easy to feel resentment for her, right? And you know she had to move past that at some point in her life. And I just felt like that dynamic is so complex and realistic compared to any of what the other girls went through. For me personally, in terms of like, I believe the story so much, and I can respect it, and I want to see it followed through. So to me, those two together were kind of my favorite characters.
I can agree with that. If we extend this question to every potential member of the cast, yeah, Gin is probably the most compelling character.
Yeah, it was never meant to be limited to the main four, even though that's kind of what most people would choose just because it's the obvious ones to choose from. But you're 100% on point, and I could definitely get on track or agree with the fact that that dynamic, that relationship was probably the most interesting little arc that we got in that show.
Ryan, you back, buddy? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm back.
Okay, there you go.
Yo, let's hear it.
Who's your favorite character?
So I'd agree with Ish on this one. The dynamic between I honestly have no idea what their names are because I didn't really keep track.
Gin and
Rector
Shirase.
Chick and Penguin Girl.
And
Tama, yeah, Penguin Chick and other Penguin Chick.
Yeah, they're both penguin chicks. Yes.
Yeah, they are both penguins.
No, I think those two, those their dynamics for the whole show. Like if this whole show was about them two, just them two, I'd be alright. Like if go ahead, David.
I was gonna say, go ahead, finish your thought. Sorry.
Well, if they would have like elaborated it, if it was like the whole show of like their whole like you know the mom died, the one still blaming herself for it, and they like instead of you know cramming all that like you know coming to and realizations and forgiveness and stuff into like such a few episodes and kind of like expanded more on that, I kind of would have liked it a lot more. But I mean, towards the end, like once they start like talking and like hanging out with each other and like kind of coming to terms with what's going on and like going past it, that's when it like really shined for me. But yeah, that's about it. I'm sorry. What was your question, David?
Would you want a sequel about them two going on a second journey, or her becoming like the next leader?
See, that's a decent question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it was there, I'd probably watch it just to kind of see what happened. But am I pressed for it? No. Would I be intrigued? Absolutely. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how they would do that. Like, yeah, like she could grow up to be like, you know, next captain or whatever, or they go together and follow more of her mother's footsteps or whatever, or she has a kid and her kid wants to do the same thing as her mom and they all three go together or whatever. They start reminiscing about other things. I mean, they can go a lot of different routes for it. It just depends on which route they want to do. But I'd be interested to see where it went.
What if in the sequel they actually went to the North Pole? Do you think that would flip the whole show on its head?
Oh my god!
Her friend at the end literally already went there.
Yeah, that'd be the spin-off
Wait,
of
what?
like
Glasses chick.
Megu's
Glasses
The whole
chick.
thing would just be upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Megu-chan went there at the end of the at the end of the.
Oh, is
series.
that where she was at?
Yeah, she went to the Arctic.
But she saw the same lights.
That's called the Aurora,
Aurora's
bruh.
on both sides.
The Aurora Borealis is both on the north and the south, my dude. Just
Wait,
saying.
did it say she went to the north one though?
Yeah, she said
Yeah,
Arctic.
she went to the Arctic.
Literally,
the
Isn't
like,
Antarctica and the Arctic?
one of the last shots in the
No.
last episode was a text from Mego-chan to Kimari, and she opens it, and she's like, Kimari is like, "Hey, I'm back home," and then she's like, "Oh, too bad, I'm at the Arctic," and then sends a picture of her
But
underneath the Aurora.
no, I get that. I assumed the Arctic was the same as Antarctica.
Oh no!
Damn.
Oh no,
Alright.
David!
Okay, so
I took
next question.
science.
One has Santa.
I do agree. They were
coming
kind
in
of
hot.
they were kind of teasing pretty hard that Shirase has gained like a lot more confidence by the end, especially with like the speech that she gives and stuff like that, where she like kind of doesn't really hesitate as much as she used to. So seeing her as like a leader eventually, like definitely could happen. But yeah, who knows? They're high school girls.
Definitely don't want that to be honest, but I was just
I
curious.
was gonna say if I can, Josh, if I can, I guess nerd out or geek out over a specific scene, since you guys mentioned that not the companionship, the relationship between Shigase and Jean. Actually, sorry, I don't know
It's fine.
her name fully, but there was a specific scene in an earlier episode running away from like the two other adults that they kind of focus on around the expedition. The other two that we see, like the cook, I forget, and the other one, it's like super cute.
Well, we know his best girl.
Well, no, my best girl is Yuzu. I will protect it to the end. I'll protect her.
Yeah,
to the
you're
end.
talking about like the vice commander, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, her name is
so basically-
Kanae.
Yeah. So when Tamaki was narrating what it was like that, it felt like her youth was beginning. It made me think of like all these times when people in high school or in college went off at like those midnight runs to Taco Bell that you knew were terrible. You had like the best fucking time. It made me think of like when high school people would like skip and do just random dumb things, but like that didn't really help out like to the future, so to speak. But it was just those youthful moments. And it made me happy because it made me realize how much of those youthful moments I didn't have. And high school and college, because I was so full like I gotta get it. So to me that was like a personal thing. I feel like I do have my youthful now that I'm an old adult, which is why I feel like I still related a lot. And again, it kind of this to me, and it's probably different. I know it's different for you guys. To me, this felt more like a coming of age kind of thing rather than a slice of life. Or a slice of life. I don't know if that's included in there, but rather than than anything like logical of sorts. Like and as a English major, I read a lot of literature that was coming of age, and that shit I eat that up. To me, just the realization that you have power, what you do, you have choices, and you can enjoy life to such an extent, whether that's choosing a dark path or whether it's choosing a life path where you enjoy life and your youth, or you decide to throw it all away. I feel like there's so much power in this in choice, and this to me, the choice of them going to Antarctica, the choice of them going against all odds, the choice of them accepting and opening themselves to having other friends or having real friends, that to me, oh man, that was deep to me. Like I loved it, but it just, that scene specifically, it inspired, it made me think of how much I wanted that when I was younger, how much I wanted to feel that. And yeah, no, like I just wanted to geek out over that because I really, it made me feel in this, I couldn't describe it, yet I'm describing it, and it made me feel that very strong.
Do you?
So yeah, what's up?
I agree. It is definitely a coming of age story. It's also probably why, like, even though it wasn't necessarily like my favorite thing ever, and I can still appreciate the emotions and the things it tries to convey, right? Because it's like I'm about to make some other parallels here, but there's a show called Outlaw Star, which is very much also a coming of age story, which is forever living in the shadow of Cowboy Bebop, which is more like the adult take on similar themes. So, in that sense, there are a lot of moments in the show where I'm like, if I was around the same age as these girls, I would probably connect with this way more than I currently do.
That's kind of like something I wanted to ask, like pointing out from like what Nate was saying. One of my questions was like, do you guys think you guys would have enjoyed this, or it would have been more impactful if you guys watched this in high school or now?
Yeah, 100%.
And some context just for
I second that.
watchers. I mean, we're all probably about 10-ish years outside of high school, just to give a idea of where we are in life right now.
We're old.
We're in our
old.
20s, okay? We're old. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take point on that question. Definitely, that's definitely something that I was thinking as well. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because I probably would have forgot to. The reason I was saying earlier, like when I was giving my initial statement, where I was like, I've seen these kind of themes and lessons kind of tackled already in like better shows for me. So I feel like I've already learned these lessons, but I appreciate the lessons still being taught. And I think that's because if I had seen this show in high school, I would have appreciated it a lot more, because going by what Nate says, when you're talking about like your own friends and stuff growing up, for me personally, the friends that I had in high school, I mean, overall, right? I mean, there's exceptions, but a lot of people back then that I would have considered a friend, looking back at the relationship, it was very superficial, very shallow. Meanwhile, these like high school girls are like way, way, way more expressive with each other than I ever was with any of my high school friends, for the most part, and so I think, if I had seen this show back then, I would have resonated with that more and been like, oh, I wish I had friends like this, right? And realized earlier I kind of don't, which that realization only really hit me in college, where I was like, oh shit, people talk about like deep things and like emotions and stuff, and that's actually pretty awesome. Like for me that was like a foreign concept. I was like, oh, what games are you playing? Like, oh, that girl, like that's it, that's all we talked about, games and girls, right? And that's not everything. And if I had seen a show like this back then, yeah, maybe it would have changed my mind on those things, using this show as a guide. It's just that other shows have already gotten there for me, so this show just didn't do that for me. But definitely I think that would have been the case.
Anyone else?
Touches on that concept, right? Like the relationship between Kimari and Megu, right? Like in any other like high school thing that's not this, right? They would be like the two best friends were probably eventually at some point there's some confrontation build-up thing, right? But here it's established pretty early that like we are friends of convenience. Like that is a thing directly addressed by the show.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm just
go for it.
Oh yeah. Touching on the friends of convenience, I would say the one exception that I felt was in her character was Hinata. It's funny how that name kind of carries over to like the very hopeful type of character. I've noticed the pattern of that from a few different anime now. But anyways, yeah, it very much is a matter of friends of convenience, because a lot of them wouldn't have gone through with it if the circumstances weren't like all aligned. Like, which happens, when you go through a journey like this, especially through high school. That's pretty much what you're exposed to. And yeah, I mean, how else would they come across people that are, in that kind of mindset, or in that capacity to undertake such a journey? So in that sense, it's a matter of circumstances that they're limited. But yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see if if down the line, if I don't know if this was based on an established manga or not, but I don't know if they were to do a or fast forward, maybe like by 10 years, 10 years out of high school, how would that kind of play out? I'd be curious on that, but I can't really knock it for touching or going springboarding off of the Friends of Circumstance, because you don't really have the time to really travel or like, but I don't know, things might be a lot different if there's a show out there that carries the concept of people trying to interact with being online and stuff, because that's a very real thing that we're facing right now. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of, I can definitely agree that these, I don't see it having the longevity and the kind of mileage that can withstand changes down the line. It's high school friends.
Hey, Josh.
For myself.
Can I answer the fun fact here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
To address why so many anime characters with Hinata be sunny and warm and hopeful. That literally means sunny place or place in the sun. So there you go.
Can we have a segment called
I didn't
Japanese
know that.
Facts with Viggy? I think that would really be a fun segment. But
I was
Josh,
good.
sorry.
Sorry.
Best
My
segment.
bad. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Josh to like sum up though. Just going back to like the original question, because I like what you were saying though. But I think it'd be really interesting from your perspective. I mean, do you think this show would have hit harder for you in high school or now?
I don't know. I've always had that kind of ambitious nature. So I mean, I kind of jokingly say this, but I don't feel like I have changed, like my mentality and my sense of uh what can I say? My sense of purpose, my drive hasn't changed much since 17. So yeah, I I still feel like it just, I mean, yesterday I've just done a lot of little bits and pieces of that add up to all that I am right now, but I still feel like I haven't changed that much since 17. So I mean, it still impacted me in a same way. So that's how I would answer that question. So.
No, that's very fair. I mean, it's not one or the other necessarily. Sorry about that, Nate.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, well, to not necessarily counter, but I guess it's kind of like a counter to what Viggy and Josh were saying regarding, the friendship being circumstantial. And I know I would say the case is different for each one. Granted, realistically speaking, I'm still friends with certain people from high school. And they're some of the closest people that I have. Like, other than you guys, they're probably like the people I would go to if I'm dying. You guys are first.
I see how it is. I see how it is.
I said, I mean, I'm for real. Like, you guys are, you guys are the first line. But like, I made sure to make a very close group of people that I trust with my life, and you guys have seen them to some extent. And to me, I would say that when it comes to, it may have started, at least the show, it may have started with, this is circumstantial. We're all going because it's beneficial to all of us, but it became something far more real than they expected. And in high school, to experience that definitely is a change, which is why I feel like the ending of the show was so impactful as well, because when the show ended, Tamaki herself was like, hey, let's say goodbye here while we're at the airport, because if we say goodbye now, it means that doesn't matter where we go, we're always going to be connected. It may and it sort of connected back to something that she showed Yuzu when in one of the episodes Yuzu was like, I want you to fill out a contract so that we are friends forever. And of course she had never had real friends, so she didn't understand what that was like. But then Tamaki showed her, hey, this is what being a real friend is like. Like sending you a text message and knowing that you didn't necessarily respond right away, but I know that you saw it, and I know that you'll reply to me at some point because I know you're busy with life. I know you have your own things. I know you have your own life that you need to push through and make sure that you follow your dream and type of situation. So to me, that specific thing reverberated all the way to the end, and that to me, that's what it's like. Because my high school friends, I don't speak with them every day. That doesn't mean that we're not friends. That doesn't mean that the friendship just fizzles out. It means that, hey, maybe life is busy. Life is insane. Shit happens every day. But every once in a while, you send a text message and that person sees it. Maybe they don't reply right away, but then 2-3 days later, they reply back and they appreciate it. Like, it just made me think, like, the other day alone, I did that. I was like, I reminisce about friends that I hadn't texted in a while, and I was just kind of like, hey, I'm checking in. How are you? How's everything? Are you doing well? Hey, I want to let you know that I love you because even though we don't talk every day, I want you to know that you're appreciated because you, in some way, shape, or form, changed my life. So that to me, that's why I don't think like, yeah, it may seem like it fizzles or it might not last, but to me, I don't think that was like sort of like that wasn't the end game. I don't think that it would have fizzled out. I think it would have been one of those situations where friendship is friendship, no matter where you are, no matter what time it is. If you reach out, that friend, if it's a true friend, they'll be there. And yeah, I guess that's my rebuttal. If it is a rebuttal, I just wanted to point that out.
You're
To
the last thing.
clarify-
Go ahead, Vic. Go ahead, Vic.
Just to clarify, at least my point, it wasn't necessary. I wasn't speaking to the four of them having a circumstantial friendship, or even necessarily Kimari having a circumstantial friendship with Megu, but I mean more like from a high schooler concept, right? Like that type of character. That like not a lot of media has a point where a character sits down or goes up to another character and is like, is our friendship built out of like genuine care for each other, or is it built out of like perceived roles in whatever the relationship we have that's a place of comfort? You know what I mean? So I like yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I don't really have a ton to comment on the four girls like being friends of circumstance or not. I personally believe they're true friends at this point. But I was more talking about that, like literally the episode called like My Friend. I think it's called like Dear My Friend or whatever. It's like episode 4 or 5 where they go to karaoke. At the end of it, Megu comes.
Dear my
in,
friend.
It's like, yeah, Dear My Friend. And
Gotcha.
like I was talking about that, where like the show isn't afraid to like confront topics of friends of circumstance, because you don't see that in a lot of stuff.
Gotcha.
Right? Like
Gotcha.
I was talking about that. I wasn't necessarily saying these people are friends of circumstance or not. I'm saying the show addresses that subject, and then even by the end,
totally misunderstood them. Totally misunderstood.
Yeah, no, you're good.
And
still,
and Nate, like,
yeah,
what you were saying, like, is like the ideal thing that you want to happen, but like the sad reality is that doesn't happen to a lot of people. And you even said at the end of your statement that like if they're a true friend, then they'll respond, right? They have to be a true friend though, right? And for a lot of people, like after moving on past high school, a lot of people, if you try to get in touch with them, they just never reply, man. And that's a sad reality. And you kind of find out like who your true friends are. I think that's a part of growing up though. Like I don't know if these girls will stay friends forever. I hope they do. I really do. And I think I based on the evidence we're given, I think they will. But I think what people were trying to say is like a lot of friendships in high school are pretty circumstantial, like what Viggy was saying. Maybe these girls aren't. And I'm glad that you have friends that you can connect with like that, on a dime, and it's all good. But for some people, that's not the case. Like
I feel that.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Even if like they don't end up being friends, and I wanted to go on my other point too, but it's not necessarily like a sad thing at all, because I mean the whole thing that they all wanted to experience was like a new experience, a new adventure, some closure, and to have a bond with some people, even if it was over a short period of time. So I think they all.
It's like a breakup.
Damn.
Yeah, like
Wait,
I mean,
what did he
no,
say?
no,
No, you're right. You're right.
I'm serious. Like with the breakup, right? You remember the good times and you remember the good memories that you guys made together,
Oh,
but you
definitely.
move on, right? It's the same thing.
Hopefully, you move on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, come on, Jeff.
Jesus.
I was gonna say.
We're adults here, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, we went over that. Some of us are adults. Some of us. One of us.
I mean, I kind of answered that with I still feel like I'm 17. Jeez.
I know. It's okay though. We love you anyway.
Dude, 17 going on 30 is a great movie.
no,
It is.
no holds barred. You were probably the
well.
youngest at heart here in a very driven, full of life
Exactly.
way, which I wholly appreciate because I have
Right.
moments where I'm a jaded man and you're friggin' older than me. And I'm like,
You're the
"Damn."
you're the might guy of this group. So there you go.
Gosh, what's up with you?
Exactly.
I think
The love hits.
I think a lot of this though, like what you talked about, and touched on with like recognizing all that stuff and learning about that. I feel like a lot of that like hit harder for me now but like then if I was in like high school in that situation where I wouldn't be able to recognize that or even contextualize a lot of that. So just going back to like my original thing and touching on it real quickly, but and I think a lot of the other things that they touched upon with each of the characters' journeys, like I said, with the fake friends, with the never really understanding what like real friendship was or having people there, the social anxiety stuff and all that, and being ridiculed, all of that, and then like the main one that hit me, which was like the sense of like wanting a journey or like some kind of memorable experience. All that like personally hits on me harder now versus in like high school, because in high school I feel like, at least for me personally, I have a lot of friends and everything, but you don't recognize what kind of friendships those are until like later on. And I feel like during high school you're just kind of like on a set path, which I get in the show that a lot of them kind of want to get off that set path and kind of like change it up in the middle. But to me it wasn't until later on, once I get off that set path of like college, school, and then work and everything, where I really like recognize the importance of that, and that desire to experience something new and to recognize the strength of friendships, what true friendship means, how to create those bonds, because for a lot of people, I think like on top of myself, like you might have like a bunch of friends like early on, but then as time goes on, they might dwindle a little bit, which is never a bad thing. It's more of just like you just have stronger, tighter friendships rather than just a bunch of, meaningless ones, which is what the show went on a lot about, like friendships that were just kind of foo-foo and like didn't really mean anything or weren't really real, or they didn't have their back, or etc. versus ones that you build through experiences and doing something together that bonds you guys. But
That's one thing that I found super interesting is that the show starts out as about how to make a friendship with strangers, and then becomes like what are the things that turn people from strangers to friends, and it kind of goes through that whole flow. But then near the end, it's about like how do you remember and honor a friendship that's like either going dormant or due to, well, in the case of Shirase's mother unfortunately passing away, like when the person's passed away, how do you honor the friendship? Right? And for Gin, that was making the observatory. For the four of them, their friendship with each other, that's not not forgetting their time together and making sure that they have another trip again in the future. So that like, I guess friendship is kind of one of the major core themes of this.
by
Think about
far.
it.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Friendship is magic. We're
Not
gonna
to
see
be on
Tony
the
soon.
nose.
I was here for the penguins.
Bro,
I mean,
Penguin's
same,
main
yeah.
theme. I wanted to.
But the way it handled that progression was good.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, that build up and everything of the friendship, which is really what they all achieved at the end. I don't know. I was gonna change topics like a tad bit, and my next question was gonna be more on like the Antarctica piece of it and everything, and going off of like the title, a place further than the universe. What did you guys think Antarctica represented in the show, whether it be to specific characters or as like thematically as a whole? And if anyone wanted to start with that.
May I?
Yeah.
I think Antarctica overall, it was a bit of a reminder that it's not necessarily the destination. I think very much like how Shigase, oh, I think I'm saying her name right.
Shirase, yeah.
Shirase.
Okay.
So described it at the end. It was very much a place where you can go and be stripped bare. You know, it is a place that's meant to make you look inside and see who you really are, what you really value. And it's funny because like I feel like these are all things that one experiences while you're in college, when you actually realize, you know, that when you leave high school, some of those friendships might not be as real as you thought. And that like it kind of makes you look inward. So I think it was like Antarctica, like metaphorically speaking, I think it was a trip to your inner self, to their inner selves, and appreciating that people appreciate your inner self rather than just the superficiality of everything. You know, because thinking about it, Antarctica, there's no city streets, there's no like what's there is what's there, and it's bare, it's natural, it's you know, and that to me, that I felt like that's what it was. It was a physical place that would make them reflect on who they were inwardly and show their true colors. And like that's what I feel like it was. It was a I don't know, it was just real. That's what it was. It felt like reality. So yeah.
I agree. I would agree with that generally. I think I was going to bring up Shirashi's speech at the end as well. And I think that she kind of just nailed it. It's a place that it makes you laid bare, and I think it represents vulnerability and you coming to terms with being vulnerable to people who care about you. And I think that's a tough lesson for a lot of people growing up. I know it is for me, and I know it is for a lot of guys too, especially. You know, learning to be okay with your emotions and being okay with being vulnerable with your friends. And I think that's really what Antarctica represented for them. And she also touches on the fact that it's a place that's harsh and unforgiving, and it forces you to work together, you know, and to respect your teammates and everything like that, and learn that you can't do everything by yourself. And I think that's very important too. I do wish that part of the theme was explored a little bit more. Again, it doesn't have to be like a physical thing, but like I wish they went through some kind of more hardships together instead of like, you know, one person is going through trauma and then they all help them. I kind of do wish that like together they were struggling in some other ways. You know, again, it goes back to my point earlier where I wish they were in Antarctica straight up just way longer than they were, to be quite frank. I think they were there for too short of a time. I think the show would have been a lot stronger for me if they were there and showed much more of how that limited society works there and just how different it is living there with people, and just having to be forced to be open with them, even if you're not like that naturally as a person. I wish that was explored a lot more. What the show gave us is serviceable. I just wish they went in more depth, but yeah, that's what I think Antarctica represented.
I feel Isha, you might like the movie Alive, because they do nothing but try and go through a struggle together, and boy, does it have some wild pitfalls.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the movie that I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's from like the 90s, right? I think.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, it's pretty rough, but it's based on a true story. I know I'm kind of joking about it, but like I'm just trying to put upside to something that was very very much addressing a struggle, but
No, I feel that
in a cold environment.
It doesn't have to be like
cold
that
is-
hardcore. It's just that I just wish they were in Antarctica longer.
You
Like
tell
I
me
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't want to see them
I cared-
struggle in an igloo, and somehow one of them makes it out alive and just remembers the memory of their friends.
And then
Exactly.
I
uses
don't
the
think an
penguin
igloo's gonna
as
help
the
you
hat.
with that level of cold.
but I really don't think I think it was a complete disservice to the show to be in Antarctica since like for the last 5 episodes or 4 episodes.
Question: Do you
I really wish that they got there
do you
earlier.
think there
That's all.
was? I mean, do you not think there was any merit in with the journey that they had beforehand? The first couple episodes, which were still in Japan, and then the few episodes that they had in Singapore, and then a few episodes they had on the actual like journey there in the ship. Like, do you think?
There is merit. 100% there's merit. And I agree from a writing perspective that, you know, you need some time to build up their relationship, you know, pre-Antarctica and then show how they change post-Antarctica. Like 100%, I get that. I just think that it could have been cut a lot shorter, to the point where we could still respect their journey before they left, and then have that like that bigger payoff afterwards. Like for me, that was just my issue with pacing, pretty much.
To your point, though, I think it's partially symptomatic of the trend of anime over time to go from 20 episodes to 13 usually, like an average, plus or minus one or two. Because I agree, there were parts of the pacing in the beginning and middle were overall good, but at the end, the pacing manic in its speed. Like things just felt they were going a little too fast. Like I guess the best way to explain my take on this is 1 to 2, where the first and second acts felt like logical sequencing driven results. I mean, they weren't perfect. They were also slightly pushed for the sake of speed and necessity and just efficiency, but they were still like, there was like a flow to it. Once we hit Antarctica, it felt more like, okay, we need to hit these emotional beats and then these scenery beats because we're in Antarctica. Madhouse is a good art team. We need to flex at least a little bit. So, and it's like, I actually appreciate these Antarctica shots where you basically have like, it was a good mix of like photos as well as like almost like static rotoscoping. Like you could tell they like took the photo and then drew based on the photo. But irrespective of that, right? It was like, okay, we need to have like an episode for basically each character in Antarctica, and then we need to have like a few actual like Antarctica sciencey things, and then that was kind of it. Like I don't know, it felt like we were trying to hit set pieces more so than actually flowing through a story at that point. I don't know if anyone else got that vibe, but that's how it felt for me.
I did too, and I mean, I think like when you like read about this show, like if you decide to watch it one day, right, and you like look into it, the whole draw, especially for me, and I don't know. I mean, there's some people here who generally don't watch slice of life, so for me, when I looked at this, the whole draw for me was, oh my god, Antarctica, that's fucking awesome. I don't understand that, I want to go. My family wants to go at some point. Maybe I'll like, understand what it's like for people who that's their dream to go there and like what experiences they have. So for me, the whole draw wasn't to see people in high school in a small town interacting and becoming friends, because I've seen that a million times, right? Like I've seen that there's so many shows that do that already. And quite frankly, do it better. I mean, that's subjective, but that's just my thoughts. There are a lot of shows that do that part better, in my opinion. So for me, the whole unique factor of this show was Antarctica. So I was just hoping that would be more of a focus than it was.
I was personally, so like I won't deny what you're saying, like, and I totally get that, and I could see why you would feel that and everything. I mean, personally, when I saw the show, or when I was, even just seeing the cover and the title of the show, and knowing that Antarctica is like the location and everything, I totally thought the show was just gonna be the whole journey, and then the final like scene was gonna be them actually arriving. I know that's kind of contrary to what you guys were saying. But I thought it was another, journey over destination show, which I know is tropey. But I think they had enough. I was surprised by how many episodes we actually did get in Antarctica, probably because I came in with a different mentality, thinking that, they just have to arrive there. And once they're there, it's like, it's more of just everything that they mentally thought. Like they're probably going to see like the lights in the beginning, or like, seeing the aurora lights or something like that would be like the final shot, which it was, but like final shot in terms of like, that's the only part we're going to see really Antarctica, or them seeing, penguins for the first time and being like, oh, we finally made it, so I think, right. I mean, going back to the original thing, yeah, my biggest issue with the show, despite me really enjoying it, was it did get formulaic. I know a lot of shows, and especially like shonen feel like they always have to end on some kind of cliffhanger, and I feel like with this slice of life kind of show that was supposed to be a little more of a thematic slice of life show, it felt like every episode had to end on some kind of emotional beat, and it felt very, it was the same music every time, and when the episode was at 17 or 18 minutes, they start playing that one song, and the characters have some emotional moment, and like I totally like, it was really, I fucking hated it. I it was cool the first couple times, and like I don't mind them doing that, but maybe every couple episodes, so it hits harder when it's like when it starts playing, you're like, damn, they're gonna say something sappy. And like it's like I don't know. It could have been anything. It would be like they cook something together and they're like, "Damn, dude, we did it together, though." And it's like,
It reminded me of like
the-
I don't know if you guys have seen How I Met Your Mother, but literally every fucking episode of How I Met Your Mother ends that same way. Like there's just like a lesson at the end, and then there's like a narrator. There wasn't a narrator obviously here, but a narrator comes in and is like, kids, at the end of the day, it's about the friends you made along the way, even if you get into fights. It reminded me of that level of like, okay, I get it. Like I fucking get it. All right.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
like
that's probably why I loved. Oh, my,
it was like the feels version of a laugh track, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is the emotion beat. Time to play the emotion song. Like it was, I don't know. Like I didn't dislike it, but there were moments where I'm like, okay, show, I get it. I understand. You don't need to beat me over the head with this. I know what you're trying to make me feel. Calm down. It's okay.
very how do you say it? Pavlovian? The dogs?
Pavlovian.
Yeah, because like
Pavlovian.
as soon as I heard the music, I was like, oh, I feel like I gotta cry now. I mean, that's what they want. I'll start tearing up. I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah,
just,
no, same thing.
I feel like a person who like has an experience with taking film classes and stuff. It's a hard line to draw on between having music that emphasizes in emotion and emphasizes the story, the script. And it's, I don't know, music, it plays a part, but I am very aware of it. If it's done too much, I would say a movie has a more advantage to it because you're going in fresh, and it doesn't have that many opportunities to be repetitive. So I don't know. For a show, I'm trying not to hate on it too much for the aspect of what you guys are saying about the music triggering the emotions. I try to just really think of myself as like per character, but that's really me just trying to be the audience member rather than being the person dissecting the kind of construction of it. But yeah, it is important to address that because that's what we are kind of picking apart here. For myself, like it's funny that you guys mention it because I'm putting some thoughts together for future works, and I'm like, does it need this such and such? And and then there's also the issue of copyright. So
I think part of it though is like two things. One, it's like when I become, because like with all these shows, I watch them somewhat passively. Of course, I'm thinking about it a little more analytically than I would if I'm just, not going to be talking about it or something like that, or if I'm not taking a few notes every episode. I think it just happens so often where I just started to notice it without even trying to like break it down. Because I don't like to watch a show and be like, okay, we're in the final act, we're in this sequence, we're in this or this. I like to try to just like enjoy it purely. I think it just happened a bit too much where I'm like, okay, even me just watching episode by episode, it's like very obvious. But my other thing is that like I'm a big fan of watching shows week by week, and kind of like I like how most shows are intended to be watched week by week when they're released on release. And I wonder if that like plays a factor into like when you like binge shows like this. And I know we all probably watch this at different paces, but we tend to binge at least a couple episodes at a time. So maybe it wouldn't have been as obvious if I was watching this every week instead of being like, okay, every 30 minutes I'm getting a new emotional, attempt to pick at me.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a fair point. I can definitely see that, and I we've talked about this at length off podcast, but I'm definitely very much like you. Like I enjoy watching stuff weekly, as well. Definitely didn't do that with the show. I think I watched it in like 4 days or 3 days or something like that. Could be a thing, but at the same time, I think if you're observant enough, you probably could still notice it as a pattern as well. I think it depends on who you are as a person. So yeah.
The thing
I can
is,
see that.
right, and like other shows that do this kind of thing, right, where during specific emotional moments, the show kind of cues you into what emotion it's going for. unlike Josh, I do not have a film history background, filmmaking background, visual media craft thingy gahoozits. My background is in writing code and making computers do what I need them to do. So I can't speak
Very
to any
important.
technical elements here. What I can say from an audience viewer who's just trying to enjoy the thing he's watching is, so I grew up, or very short aside, quickly as possible to make sure we maintain focus on Place Further Than the Universe. I grew up without cable. I watched mainly public shows. My jam was Arthur when I was growing up. And
Yeah,
even by,
Aardvark.
and even by like late elementary school, and I mean, to kill time, I again didn't have cable in middle school or high school either. So yeah, I'd watch PBS with my sister at times just to like see what stuff is going on and if how things have changed since I was a kid. And I would legitimately enjoy some shows still, Arthur being one of them. So I would notice that like, hey, during these certain beats, they would play the same audio clip, but there was enough variety, and not literally every episode would go through the same emotional beats, that I didn't notice it as a kid, and I didn't, or like an elementary kid, and I didn't really notice them until high school. That was when I first started noticing, like, oh, they played this jingle during this like emotional sequence. They played this jingle during this emotional sequence. In this, but the thing with that, right, was like even when I recognized it, it still felt kind of subtle. Like I had to be paying really close attention to notice it. Here, it was so frequent with what song was played during what emotion sequence, and almost every show followed the same like emotion arc, that I didn't even pay attention to it. It kind of felt like it was slapping me in the face.
I feel that.
No, I think it's a good comparison to put it to like something like Arthur or something like that, where it's as meaningful as it is, because I guess it's okay to show a little bit of our personalities and a little bit of our
So in
origin
case anyone
stories.
doesn't know, I'm the resident Arthur shill.
You're the wiki on Arthur, dude.
But
Yeah, keep going, David.
yeah, no, I was just gonna agree. Like, I mean, a lot of shows do kind of follow some kind of formulaic-ish, like, oh, it's the lesson at the end. To me, growing up, I think it was kind of like Full House. I don't know, that might just be a me thing, but it was very obvious. Like, they put it, and watching it back now, like, yeah, I don't like it, but like, even as a kid watching it, I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna have that, like, the music like gets a little bit of melancholy, and it's like, now DJ, what lesson did we learn today? And it's like, maybe I should be nice to my friends or something like that. I don't know.
Dude.
It's,
I'm glad you brought up Full House, because ironically, Bob Saget from Full House is the narrator in How I Met Your Mother that does the cues at the
end. I didn't even know that.
So I'm really glad you brought that up, because it just reinforces my earlier point.
Can we make a Bob Saget show? Can we just define that as anime and just watch that, or is that?
Nah, man, Corey in the House. Next week, Corey in the House.
I'd be down.
I don't know what Corey in the House is.
Bruh,
Best video game
hold up a
ever.
minute.
It is the best anime show ever, okay?
9.7 on Metacritic.
All right.
Josh,
once we're done with this podcast, we gotta have a heart to heart with Josh about this.
Okay. I will say though, like, yeah, just trying to keep things kind of on track.
Thank you.
But from an emotional flow perspective, my overall thoughts of this show were very much like, it made me feel things, made me appreciate things. General vibe I'm getting from this discussion is that we all can appreciate and enjoy aspects of it. It just kind of really depends on A, how much you can relate to the message being told, and B, you're in a place in your life where you need that kind of experience right now. And which is totally fine, because I mean, we're all people, we're all in different positions. We all grow in different ways at different times and need different things, which I totally get.
I agree.
But overall, I don't think anyone here is going to outwardly say the show was bad, it's a waste of time, things of that nature. It's more just like, if you're in need of a story that is kind of going to make you feel like certain emotions and watching people struggle to get a goal done and achieved, this might be for you. If you're not really in that kind of coming of age position right now, then you'll still get some enjoyment out of it, but you may not connect to it.
Right.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, pretty much exactly my thoughts. Yeah, like it really just depends on you as a person. Like, I mean, in anything that we watch and in any discussion we're going to have on this podcast, you know, subjectivity is going to play a huge part in it, of course. But I think for the show or shows like this in particular, like if the message doesn't resonate with you, like it's just like having a discussion about it is just going to be kind of harder, you know. And so I'm definitely excited to see like in the future if we do more shows in this genre, like how the discussion is going to change.
Some of y'all never had dreams of going to Antarctica, and it shows.
I have that. So.
Look,
Yo,
look, David,
we had dreams of going to Europe and going
I was gonna say too.
Is there anything else major you guys want to
True
talk about?
friends, true friends right there. True friends worry.
friendship is magic, and
Yes.
go to Antarctica. Everyone should find the Antarctica that they need to go to in their lives and just do it,
Go watch My Little Pony.
basically,
Guys,
or play
I'm
them.
you read
telling
my
you
mind.
guys, if we
You read
save
my
up,
mind.
you leave
Support
from Chile,
PBS.
you leave
Wait,
from Argentina,
what?
and then you're like at the very south tip, and it's like a boat ride over.
A boat ride over.
Yeah, I mean
We're
it's
talking
really
about
dangerous.
like a sloop or a canoe.
I mean, if we each get kayaks, hear me out, and
Here.
We're gonna kayak to Antarctica.
No. We'll all just save up 15K and then go on a trip.
yeah, but I
You
feel
know,
like by the
right.
time we go, it'll be cheaper. So, like, I'm telling you, if we
Hopefully.
get the kayaks, parkas, and when I say parkas, I mean I don't know if those come with real fur, but no real fur.
What?
And yeah.
Dude, by the time we go, Antarctica might not even exist.
So
Also-
Antarctica still has land. So even if it's not icy and the penguins are dead, we can still go.
Wait, why would you want to go to a cold rock?
Dude, it'd be hype, dude. You've been to all
To find our
seven
inner
continents.
vulnerability, Biggie.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah,
might
but-
have ice cream there,
But
like
I
Cold
can
Stone.
do that just going to a bar with all of y'all.
Exactly.
You're telling
bar-
me a bar
Dude,
down
for
the street
us
is the
and-
equivalent of going to a cold rock in the south of
No, David, I'm saying all of you are my Antarctica.
Yeah, when it's with you guys, yes.
Aw.
That's a good way to wrap the show up.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, let's just end on that note.
So just so that everybody knows, the next show we're tackling is Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto? So look forward to that.
Yeah,
Which was Josh's
Pick.
list. So I think we're all really excited to see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
anything about it, so I'm excited.
I love me a good comedy, so let's go.
I'm ready to laugh. Without the crying this time, hopefully. Because, yeah.
oh man, yeah. I cried a bunch. Just happy tears, but happy sad tears, and then there's laughing tears that are fun too.
All right, guys, take it easy.
All right.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, and make sure to subscribe and check out all of our individual endeavors as well. I am on
Yep,
YouTube.
my individual endeavor that does not exist. Check it out.
If anything does change, we'll let you know. But please
Yes.
don't hold your breath. We're not liable for you dying.
Yeah.
Check out my stick figure drawing of Endeavor.
But yeah, in all honesty, check out Josh's and David's channels because they're hilarious and I love them. Bye-bye.
Josh had a recent DIY video go up. It was pretty solid.
Thank you. I also have my workouts, and then also my new Storytime animation coming out soon, this Tuesday.
I have a 30
Nice.
second video where I pretend to be a Final Fantasy NPC and I just kind of scream into a camera and wear wigs. So I hope you like the content.
It's peak comedy, honestly. Honestly, after watching that video, I don't think I'm gonna enjoy Have You Insured I'm Sakamoto.
Yeah, Pete. I'm sorry, I ruined comedy.
Yeah,
Dude,
you just
you
ruined
should put
comedy
it
for
on
me.
TikTok. You should honestly put it on TikTok.
Okay,
Yeah.
that means you have to open up the next show with So Who Did It Better? Baja Irish
Yeah.
Rico or Sakamoto?
Yo, you
Haven't
know
you
what
heard
position
I'm
I'm gonna
Rico?
take. I'll fight all of y'all. All right, guys. Final jingle. Dude.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bop. Anime crossing.
Woo. All right,
Okay.
I'm just gonna end it.